evening, TheoTrade. This is Corey Rosenblum, and you're watching the Theo Nightly video for the 31st of August here in 2021, and tomorrow begins September. And that means a slide quickly toward 2022, but we aren't there yet. So far, the market continues this upward drift. We do have a holiday week, at least in terms of Monday session, but a big news event is going to be the jobs report. That's our monthly jobs report, unemployment rate, and different major economic event news takes place on Friday right before that holiday. But when it's holiday drift, we call it holiday drift, which is similar to other times in the market that we've just got this drifter. And what a drifter means is we are at the highs. Yes, we got a small pullback. That was from last week's report, last week's videos, and that was down against 4,500, but it was short-lived. It lasted about one trading session. And then we had the Friday trend day, the Monday trend day, and today's range day. Nevertheless, on low volume, they can drift the market or float the market up. And be careful looking at volume in aggregate, because that same little concept about, don't want to call that bullish drift, but holiday drift where the market can be floated to the upside. That's what we're looking at for the potential of this week, which is additional float or levitation or helium balloon to the market, and that will be ahead of the next bigger rubber band snapback. That's what we'll be focusing on Wednesday, Thursday, and of course Friday's volatile, possibly volatile, news-driven session. Not a lot on the earnings front coming up in the week. Now that's the S&P. Let's look at the NASDAQ, which also got its short squeeze or its one-day pullback, that's right there, and led to two trend days on Monday or Friday, and then Monday. Today, of course, was a range session. But the Dow did not have those bullish breakouts. In fact, it was more consolidated. So the only markets that had the strong burst to the upside this last few sessions were the S&P and the NASDAQ, because the Dow mini futures have stayed within their profile and their boundary level. And again, this sort of mostly sideways trading range that has a little bit of an upward drift. Now, it's the Russell that has this complete sideways activity, and that continues between 2125 and about 2325, or to be simple, 2100 and 2350. That allows for premium to be sold outside of the boundaries, and of course range or fade techniques to go low to high and high to low, trading on the extremes of the boundary zones. So the markets are not all saying the same thing. We are mostly getting strength in the technology sector, and that of course comes with the monsters of tech. The monsters of tech, you can see the symbol here in TheoTrade. It's Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google, and Microsoft. And that just plays within the biggest market cap names, and we, as best we can, equalize them so that this one conglomerate signal or symbol becomes the NASDAQ. It is very similar, just these five stocks. These are the five stocks. This is the NASDAQ, and this is the XLK technology sector, which is very closely tied to the NASDAQ. And it did break to the highs. And that is in part on some of our leading stocks. This is our stock list, or group, or scan that we provide most evening videos that I do that are making new 52-week highs. That includes Facebook, Adobe, and then Danaher, and some other ones. And they're not necessarily big market cap names, but they are to be watched. And if you play into the swing account, these are some of the ones to focus on, at least the ones I like to focus on, which are in the S&P 100. And some of them are not, most of them at this point are not, but these are names to watch. Now, just to highlight a few of our technology stock names, we'll start with Amazon, not at those 52-week highs. We'll also take a look at, to go down and scroll, Tesla. Tesla is coming up, rallying, but it is as well is not at 52-week highs. Netflix, not quite a monster of tech, but always fun to take a look at Netflix, which is consolidating and is at the top of its trading range. So that is a candidate to watch for the short side as it pierces above or trades into this 570 or 575 level. Those are turning points, or at least have been turning points in the previous times. That will be a short setup or a put play as the market stabilizes and perhaps returns back inside under 4 or 560. And other stock names, we'll just go ahead and look at Apple. And there's Apple, made a new 52-week high, and that, when you talk about 52-week highs in Apple, that is an all-time high. Did not complete the move today, but was very, very strong in yesterday's session. And then, of course, Microsoft, just slightly off the high, splitting hairs, but nonetheless, is at new 52-week highs, or all-time highs in this case. We just saw Facebook. Facebook did get a squeeze, and that is technically splitting hairs, but again, an all-time high. That just completed a bull flag. We do like to trade bull flags or be bullish in the direction of the trends, but do so on pullbacks or retracements, flags in the direction of the trend. We don't want to put any buy positions on when the market is above or overextended. We want to do that as a candidate to play bull flags, but do so on future pullbacks. And anything I missed? Google. Google is a little bit different. It's been strong and continues to rally. So it, as well, should be considered as a stock that just made a new 52-week high. That, again, puts us into the technology category. Outside of that is financials. And the big driver of the market is financial stocks. And the XLF did a double top, or at least a resistance high, into 39 per share. Want to bring up one stock in particular that had some volatile news in today's session with respect to regulators, and that was Wells Fargo. Mainly, it was done on the intraday chart. That is a headline news event. That's regulators are not happy with the pace of payments or restitution, whatever the news wound up being. That sent the stock much lower. But that selling in the financial sector, as far as I could tell, was only confirmed or confined to Wells Fargo. Goldman Sachs, like the financial sector, comes off the high. Capital One Financial, similar. We can look at Citigroup or Citi, same component, and other stocks, maybe Bank of America, so on and so forth. So that is to be watched. Another stock that we discussed in today's session quite a bit was Zoom Technology, which had earnings. And the interesting thing about the earnings for Zoom, we'll put back a Zoom here, is that it actually did beat the estimates. In fact, the estimates were about 62 cents on the consensus, and it actually doubled that to about $1, a little bit about $1.30. And you'd think that'd be bullish, but you'd think that for Amazon, and that was not the case. Amazon took a 3 standard deviation tumble to the downside on its beat of earnings. So did Zoom Technologies. Maybe we are going back to work. Maybe the populace is getting back to work and they aren't Zooming as much. Maybe they're not selling Zoom license, whatever the case may be. But that stock is trading at a new, just about, 52-week low. And that has been a stock that is one that did not benefit as much from the reopening. This was the pandemic. If you think about stocks that have news or at least fundamental tie-ins, when the pandemic hit, people were on Zoom. That includes companies, corporations, and individuals. But as the pandemic began to lift, as the lockdowns stopped, and as the economy opened back up, most stocks benefited in a big way from that reopening and the optimism and getting back to business and getting back to work. Zoom was one of the only stocks that did not do so and has been downtrending since mid or late mid 2020. So perhaps that really wasn't a surprise, but nonetheless, it is a weak stock, getting weaker, and it experiences its own downtrend. There are not a lot of stocks in the market that are downtrending, but Zoom is one of them. Again, we don't have a lot on the economic front, or at least the earnings front. We'll take a look at our scan. And Oracle. Now that does report next week, but it's the next stock up in the S&P 100, and that takes place again next week. That's going to be after the jobs report and after the holiday. So once again, pulling us back to the beginning of the video, we do have the odds and probability, just like it has in other times, for a sell swing. But we probably could, potentially, maybe, we'll see additional what we call holiday drift, or market drift, or bullish drift, or bid walk drift. whatever term you want to use. Be careful, be safe, be protective. And of course, after the holiday takes place, we'll be back to normal trading environments. As always, be careful and safe. This is Corey Rizzleman with tonight's Theo video update for August 31st, 2021.